Hi everyone, it's Margaret with Creative Stamping with Margaret. I'm here with this month's card class and one of the cards from that class. And for the month of February, card class is focusing on the Regency Park suite of products that are found in the mini catalog. And let me pull that over. Those are on page 30 and 31. You will see all the products that are in that suite. And for this particular card, the products that we are using are the Petal Park bundle, which includes the stamp set as well as the coordinating punch. We are using the Cane Weave 3D embossing folder, and then we are using our sentiment, which comes from the Sentimental Park stamp set. So let's get started. So if you ordered a kit to go, you will receive the materials to replicate this card. All you need to do is provide your stamps and your ink and your adhesives. I have prepped the materials, cut the cardstock for you, and I'll be sending you the items so that you can replicate these cards. If you did not order a kit but decide that you want to make this card, don't fret. I'm going to have the dimensions of the materials used down in the description. I'll have links there where you can order the stamp set or any of the materials that you may need to replicate and make this card. Of course, if you don't have these materials and you have other stamp sets that are similar, obviously you can get creative and make the card. But let's get started with this particular card. And let me just make a few comments. One thing is, you will notice this is our a little bit larger card. It uses the large card from the Memories and More pack, which is available for order in the annual catalog. And what's nice about that, these cards are 6 1/4 by 4 1/4. They come with the envelopes, but they're already pre-cut, pre-scored for you. So, and I just like to use them on occasion to make some large cards. But the other materials you'll need in addition to that card, you will need Granny Apple Green, and this is a 4 by 6 piece of Granny Apple Green, which we will texture emboss. You will also need a 3 by, let me double check that. So this is a 3 by 5 piece of basic white cardstock, which is the panel that we do our stamping on. And then you'll also just need a scrap of basic white so that you can stamp and punch your flowers for the front of the card. And of course your adhesives. And then for your ink, I'm using Sweet Sorbet and Granny Apple Green. So the first step is we're going to fold our large card. Go ahead and fold that, crease that nicely along the score line. Take your bone folder and really press that down. Then next, we will texture emboss using the Cane Weave 3D embossing folder. And the nice thing is, this will fit perfectly inside the 4 by 6. So you will place that, just line that up. We're going to close that, and then you'll take and run this through your embossing cut and emboss machine, which I have already prepared one just so that we can move along with this video. And we'll adhere that to the front of the card. I found the best way to adhere this is to use the multi-purpose liquid glue. It gets down in those crevices and it just grabs against the basic white card base, and that way I could get it to stay down. I tried making another card using that 3D or the cane weave embossing folder, and when I used a different adhesive, it just to me did not seem to want to hold as well, so it didn't give me that nice flat appearance. So we're going to set this to the side while we do our stamping. We'll pull it back in after we stamp. Let me just move this out of the way. So we're going to pull in. The first thing that I like to stamp on this is the sentiment. That just helps when it comes to stamping the leaves, so I know where to place that. So we're using our Sweet Sorbet, and we're just going to stamp into the lower right corner of the 3x5 panel. I love this font, just so nice looking. We're going to set this to the side so we don't end up getting ink, red ink on our card. And then the next thing we're going to do is stamp with our leaves, and of course the leaves come, this is a two-stage stamping. Of course, if you just wanted to use the outline, you could do that, but I am using both of these stamps, and I just want to point out one thing. I'm going to go ahead and remove my photopolymer stamp from the block. This is just a tip for you, and particularly for large photopolymer stamps, and when you're doing two-stage stamping, it's really becomes critical that the stamps keep their shape. And I have found that it's best to take it out of the stamp case, just lay it down, because as you saw when I was pulling up the block, I'm sort of I'm handling it and it's getting sort of askew. So what you do is you will take and place it, lay it down onto a surface, let it relax for just a moment. That's so that it sort of goes back in place. And then I like to take the block and add the block to the stamp. That way it seems to line up. I've had issues lining stamps up before and realized what I was doing, and then when I started using that little trick, it really helped. So the first thing is I'm going to ink up the outline of the leaves, and by having stamped the sentiment already, it helps me find the best location to place my leaves and stamp the image. So we're going to stamp that, add a little pressure to that, and lift. Then we're going to follow that with our second stamp. Excuse me. Sorry for that cough. Hopefully I didn't cough in your ears. I tried to move the microphone. Went for a walk today, and pollen seems to already be arriving, because I've had it, feel like I've had it in my throat all afternoon. Okay, so let's take this and we're going to stamp off. You notice I put a little label on my block just to remind myself to stamp off. Now, of course, you could, if you wanted it to be full strength with the color so that this all one color, you would not stamp off. Got these line up. I may be off on the bottom, but that's okay. So we stamp that, and I saw that right as I pressed down that I had move my stamp a little, but that's okay. Then next, we will take, let's pull our card back in, and we're going to add this to the front of the card, and we're going to add that using Stampin Dimensionals. And since it is a larger piece of cardstock, I add lots of dimensionals. Nothing's worse than making a card and then having pieces come off when the recipient opens their envelope. One more back. Okay, so then we will center this onto that cane weave embossed layer. Now you will pull in your scrap of the basic white. And we'll also need the punch, and we're going to use for this the sweet sorbet again. And let's see, let me pull these. The flowers, you're going to need the floral outline from the stamp set, and that is the Petal Park stamp set, so you'll need these two. We use these 2 leaves, and then we're using large leaf bundles, I should say, and then we're using the flowers, the 3 grouping of 3 flowers. So first, there again, this is a 2-stage stamping, so we're going to stamp the outline piece, and now we're going to take and ink up the second stamp, and there again I'm stamping off. We're going to line these up. And stamp those, and while I'm going to leave that sitting while I close that, that's an accident waiting to happen. Oops, sorry, did not mean to hit the camera when I lifted that. Next, we're going to take our punch that coordinates with this, and we're going to put this in, and I'm having a hard time gripping that, so I'm going to pull in some of this tape, which is like Post-it notes. I always find them very helpful for when I want to line something up. Let's see if I can get this from this direction. I need to trim the edge off of my piece of scrap there. Now it slides in. What was happening is that edge was pushing against the back, and it did not, so the images did not want to line up properly in there. But as you can see, now I have it in there. We're going to punch those. And if you wanted to stamp this with the leaf, I just want to give you a tip, and that would be to take a scrap piece of paper. This is what I like to do. And then I just punch the image as such. And then I take and lay the pieces inside here and then put my block down so it would they would line up so you could do your leaf and your flowers all at the same time if you wanted to do that. That's just another little tip for you. So now we're going to finish this card by adding our, oh, I just picked up that stamp with ink. I have red all over my hands now. And I'm using the mini dimensionals for these small flowers to hold them in place. And then the large dimensionals, which I have moved to the side. Let me grab another set here. So we'll put a large dimensional on the back of the large flower. I just want to point out, you'll notice that's sort of an unfinished leaf. That's sort of the guide that I'm using for placing the first flower. And then where I have a flower that's extended up in this, or not a flower, but a leaf extended up into the air with a gap, that's where I'm placing another of the flowers. And then this last one you can just sort of play around wherever you would like it. And I thought, because this sort of mirrors that this was a good location on the card. So there we have our thanks card, which uses the Petal Park bundle from the Regency Park Suite Collection in the mini catalog. I hope you've enjoyed this card. Just refer to the card info down below. You'll also find a link there to my blog where you'll be able to find more details about the materials used. Thanks for joining me. I'm Margaret Knight. This is Creative Stamping with Margaret, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I appreciate you watching my video today. Have a great rest of your day.